Hey everybody, it's Jeff with Maximum Threshold Radio, and I'm very honored to have on the line with me Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, and soon to be, I'm willing to bet, best-selling author. How are you today, Randy?
I'm good, man. Just in New York, doing some press.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff coming up, man. You're going to be busy. I mean, with the book tour, the little bit of book tour that you got going on, and the new record coming out and everything. So you got a lot of irons in the fire at present day.
Yes, sir. Believe you me, I can feel it too.
Right?
Yeah, I'm doing lots and lots of stuff. I just cut off the tour about 5 or 6 days ago from 5 weeks in Europe. Come home, get ready, do book tour, then turn around, go home for 2 days, and then be out with the top for 8 weeks. Trying to cram it all in.
Exactly, man. So I'd like to start off, Randy, with what is pretty much the beginning of the book, man. You land in Prague, and there's, at that time, I'm sure I smoked cigarettes too. At that point, you're just like, man, everybody get your shit. I want to get off this plane. I want to have a frickin' cigarette. It's like the only thing going through your mind. And there's some commotion going on, man, and I'm sure, even with the language barrier, that you can kind of pick up that something's not quite right and there's some shit going down. At that point, are you like, man, I feel sorry for the poor sap that these guys are here looking for, man?
That's correct. I walked in the runway and there's, what looks like an anti-terrorism squad or a SWAT team. They're, 5 great big dudes with full-on machine guns and face masks. You couldn't, see nothing but their eyes and their mouth, through these, ski mask things. And 3 big, brutal plainclothes detectives, severe kind of Eastern Bloc-looking dudes, and then one woman who turned out to be a head. And unfortunately, that poor guy I was feeling sorry for was me.
Right.
She handed me this paper saying being charged with manslaughter, and off I go to a 123-year-old Czech prison for over a month.
And that's got to be, horrifying. They get you, and obviously, all you guys are detained. You are segregated from the rest of the band, and are you thinking, man, did somebody bring something that they shouldn't have brought? One of the crew guys, anything? Did you think that it could be anything as ridiculous as a manslaughter charge that they were about to tell you?
No, not at all. Really, 2 things flashed through my mind. 2 main things. First, it was because, it's over almost 5 years now. If I don't screw it up, it'll be 5 years in October, But the first thing I thought is I was so good. I was thinking, I'm like, what idiot left some sort of dry goods in their bag,
Right.
Some weed or who knows what, because they were out partying in Norway the night before or whatever. Some dumbasses, now we're being delayed because they got some weed or something. And then I was like, and then the thing I thought was okay, something screwed up with the work permit. Some, jerk off at the promoter or someone didn't sign something, didn't dot the I's, and sometimes, we've had guys be threatened to be for because their permits weren't. They had to leave the country, so I was like, hey, well, that's what this is. But I certainly didn't think it was going to be me being charged with manslaughter, over an incident 2 years previous of which I had absolutely no memory of.
Right. And it's hard to remember what you had 4 nights ago for dinner or what shirt you wore last week. And now you got to dig through 2 years of stuff that's gone on and try and make some sense of what they're throwing at you. And I'm sure that's you're thinking how it is here in the States, man. They separate everybody and then it's going to be the divide and conquer, and they're going to nominate one spokesman for the entire group.
Yeah. That was... they took me off to a cell, and they said that I was being charged with manslaughter in connection with an incident that occurred at our only other concert 2 years previous. We played in Prague, and it had been a crappy show, but certainly didn't remember anyone getting hurt or killed or anything. So they took me away, and then my band and crew had to go to a hotel. They took all and they had to spend the night and then be interrogated by the police the next morning before they were left. So I know I'm glad they left the country as quick as possible.
Right.
It's like cops will get there and grill you with all these questions and about something that happened 2 years ago. Like for an hour. I don't remember what I did for 70 minutes 2 years ago.
Right.
Most people don't. What did you do 2 years ago from 8 until 9, 10? I don't know. Watched a movie or something.
Right.
But I got some severe, hours long worth of testifying and interrogation and so forth. And having to tell what I could remember. And then, I stayed in jail for 3 days in Prague, and then they put me before a court to decide on whether or not I'd get bail. And they granted me bail, and then until bail was paid, they took me off to this 123-year-old prison called Pankratz Prison. And I paid bail twice. Their legal system acts a little bit different. So I spent 34 days in this prison with a guillotine down the hall from me from when the Nazis had it. That was kind of wacky.
Right. Now, did you know all this history about the prison when you got there, or is this something you found out after the fact?
No, I started learning it while I was there. I was like, this place is a dump.
Right.
It looked like parts of downtown Detroit. Like just parts of it were abandoned. There's broken windows and all this stuff, and our cells were just completely screwed up. So I started asking, and I'm like, how old is this place? And someone's like, oh, it's 123 years old, and the Nazis had it during World War II and executed almost 2,000 people in a year and a half here. I'm like, oh, they must have used a lot of bullets. No, they had a guillotine.
Right, so it just adds to the pleasantness of your stay already. You got to deal with this shit now.
Yeah, it was just crazy, So I stayed in there, and then finally, after this long ordeal, I got out on bail, and then, I left the country legally, but I did it kind of covertly because the prosecuting attorney had found out I was out on bail. He could have written a request for my incarceration all over again, and then he was just keeping the gears of the machine turning, keep me in prison, because he didn't think if they were going to charge me, if I was going to have to get to trial, I'd come back to trial. I had to go back and clear my name. That was important to me. And so, a few months later, there was a trial, and I went to trial, and eventually was found not guilty.
Right, and we'll get to all that stuff. But when you first went in front of the judge there, you said in the book that you kind of he kind of made a little comment that he doubted the validity of the charges. When he said that and it was translated to you, were you like, all right, man, now the ball's rolling. I'm going to get out of here. It shouldn't be too long, whether it's a couple days or whatever. But I'm going to be home soon. And then he kind of asked you, well, what can you afford for bail? And it kind like the way I took it, it kind of seemed like a legalized jack, man. Like he was just like, well, how much money do you got, Randy?
Well, I'm not really sure whether it was a legalized jack or what. I mean, he asked me, how much I made and what I could pay for bail. And I thought about it, and thought about my band and what we had in our account at that time. I kind of lowballed him a little bit, not too much. I said about, $100,000. I think we can do $100,000. And he's like, give me 5 minutes and come back, and then blam. He says, okay, bail is granted $200,000. I'm like, Jesus, it's like approaching $250,000.
Right.
So, we're not Led Zeppelin. So luckily, our label loaned us that as a part of our advance, for our new record.
Right.
So we were able to borrow first, and then, I thought, I'll be getting out soon once, they always pay, but that's not what happened.
Right. Exactly. And then, again, they hit you up for more money after he set it at $200,000, correct?
Yeah, he said it at $200,000, and then it was appealed, and then they went to the appeal, and then there was a discussion, and then they said, okay, yeah, now we'll do it. Give us $200,000 more, so now we're at $400,000, and we borrowed money again, and then that was paid, and they're like, you're going to be getting out, and then the prosecuting attorney appealed that. And I'm like, we're approaching $500,000 bail I've paid here, and I'm still not out of prison. So things work a little bit differently over there, to say the least.
Right. And at this time, are you like going, man, my embassy they got to do something, man. This bureaucratic bullshit has to be thrown aside. They got to save one of their own at this point and just get me out of here.
Well, in the beginning, I learned pretty quickly that the embassy wasn't really going to do much. The Czech government, they legally arrested me. That's according to my embassy. And my embassy said, well, we can't really provide you any legal advice. They came to check on me. They did say, are torturing you? And I'm like, no. They're like, quick. We can promise you that much. They're like, we can't really do anything. We're in their country, so good luck. Here's a list of lawyers. And, that's about it. I had an embassy representative at trial, but, that's it.
That's it. And at that point, when fellow Americans like walking out of the room after they tell you like, hey, good luck with you, man. Like, you got to be like, are you fucking kidding me, man? I vote, I pay taxes, and this is what you're leaving me in the hole?
Well, the whole thing is I don't expect, I'm not trying to come across as some sort of American exceptionalist, but the one thing that really kind of ticked me off is, okay, because there was the Czech government, all of this had happened 2 years previous, as I said. The Czech government reached out to the American government and said, hey, we want to investigate this guy on a manslaughter charge. There's a dead citizen here. And the American government said, no, screw you. We aren't going to do that. It sounds like bogus. I'm assuming that's what they said to them. I know they refused to cooperate with the Czech government. They said, no, we will not. We will not help you in your investigation. Okay, that's cool, right? Just tell me I'm wanted for manslaughter in another country, though, please.
Like, give you a heads up, yeah.
That way I can handle it myself, try and, at least, because, obviously I went back for trial. Obviously I would have handled it some way, I would have made some sort of arrangements to cooperate with these people or figure out just what's going on. But, nobody told me anything. Someone dropped the ball pretty hard there.
Right.
And I've never gotten a satisfactory answer out of anyone as to why they didn't inform me. Cool, you're going to say that I'm not, you aren't going to cooperate and that you don't think it's right that I'm investigated or whatever. But you're just going to hang me out to dry like that?
Right.
I've never gotten a satisfactory answer out of that, and I don't expect to. So I'm not going to be bitter about that. That doesn't do me any good. But
right.
It pissed me off at the time, man.
When you're left alone with your thoughts and all you want to do is go home or have a cigarette or do something, and it's like, they looked you up and looked into you and shit and saw that you like, hey, man, dude travels a lot, man. Maybe we should kind of tip him off. Like, hey, when you happen to get into the Czech Republic at any time in your course of your travels, shit's going to hit the fan real fast.
Yeah. The whole thing is that the IRS can find me no problem to get their tax money, right? If the IRS can find me and the Justice Department can't find me to inform me that I'm wanted for manslaughter somewhere else, then we got problems here.
Right.
Something needs to be addressed. So it's not like people don't know where I am. All they got to do is look at the tour dates.
Right.
It's not like it's a secret when I'm going to be in, San Francisco or Italy or China or wherever I'm going. It's up on a website. So that was a pretty hard rub, and it did kind of, when I was locked up, I was pretty irritated about that, but I try not to be too bitter about it today because, it doesn't really do me any good.
Right. Yeah. Well, at this point, it's water under the bridge, and you got, you're a free man, and that's what's important. And not only that, like you went back when most people wouldn't, and I'm going to touch on that for a second. But when this is going on, at what point do you go, this would make a really fucking killer book, man? Like, is it at the beginning, or is it like after you first go in front of the judge, or?
I had this really weird moment, man, when I was being led away in handcuffs. Like when I was they hadn't put the handcuffs on me. These guys in armed masks, with machine guns and these masks and stuff, are leading me through this airport, and everybody's staring at me. And I had this bizarre thought. I was like, oh my God, pay attention to everything going on right now. A, because it's really important that you pay attention to what's going on and don't say or do anything stupid.
Right.
Because this is very serious. But I also had this other thought. I was like, man, this is going to make a great book one day. And for a second, I was like, God, what is wrong with your mind? You're thinking about writing a book, and you're getting ready to go get locked up in a foreign country. What is wrong with you?
Right.
But I think it's the fact that, it's like I've been involved in the creative aspect of making music and writing and doing photography for so long, particularly writing for music, that I'm always paying attention to everything, And I thought that very briefly, and then I didn't really think about that again for a long time, because believe you me, when this was all over, the last thing I wanted to do was write a book about it.
Right. Relive it.
To do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of decompress and get away from it for a while at least.
Yeah, man. But, the book, it's like, there's some things in there, I had to be convinced by literary agents, right? Because I was like, I'll write it one day when the time is right, and, I think my story has value. I think it could help some people. There's some things in there, not even prison things, but other things that I think could help some people, might be of service to someone. And I thought, it's compelling, it'll make a good book, but I'm not ready. And I told this literary agent who was wanting me to write, he's just like, I'm like, I got a journal, I got all these memories there, I can really remember everything really clear. And he's like, yeah, but those memories are going to fade, dude. And I was like, you're right. So and it's funny, in writing the book, I realized, I'll look at my journal and I kept a pretty detailed journal day by day, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, wait, what was that? And then I'll have to really think, and search in my mind, and then it'll come back to me. So, human memory is a tricky thing. It's not like we're like a hard drive. Most people think we're like a hard drive where everything that happens to you, it's stored in your brain, and then all you need is a key to unlock it,
Right.
That's not the way it works. There's a lot of brain science that says that, memories are a lot like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. And you use what pieces you have. That's why people have different memories of the same events, and you remember things differently as time goes on because you start losing pieces of the puzzle. So it was important to me to get it all down while I still have what memories I have, and really try and get it across in really descriptive language, because I want the book to kind of make the person feel as if they're going through the experience with me so they can understand it,
That's what it's like. It's like you're sitting there, and every time you describe that cell and your Mongolian cellmate taking a shit and whistling, it's like, I'm starting to get annoyed by him fucking whistling and taking a shit, and, and it's, I just imagine, like, the flies and shit flying around, like the light bulb, like you see in all the movies, and, all that stuff, and I'm like, man, shut the fuck up already, Genghis Khan, just shut up. Let me catch some sleep.
Good. That's good. That's good that you got that, man. That means that I consider myself doing my job, I guess.
Right.
I want to be descriptive.
Now, when you're in there, and obviously you're not in like the holding cell, and they're not questioning you as much, and time goes by. In reality, time is a funny thing, and an hour is an hour. You can say, man, it felt like it was only 40 minutes or something, but in fact it was an hour. When you're locked up against your will, time, days seem like hours, seem like months. Days have to seem like years, I'm assuming. I've never been in for a long time, but long enough to know that, hey man, a day's enough of this shit.
Yeah, dude, you said go to the drunk tank and wake up, and that'll be the longest, 12 hours you spend. You've never been arrested, sitting in this cell is just crazy. But yeah, when you're locked up, and I didn't do 20 years or anything. I was incarcerated for 37 days. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to try and, act like it was this long, horrific thing that lasted for 20 years, because I have friends who did time like that.
Right.
And that's not me. I was in a kind of a weird situation, but it was, a little over a month. But time, even when you're in there for, after about a week, man, I totally lost track of time. And I totally, I couldn't tell how long I'd been in there. I didn't have a watch, for a good while when I first got locked up. And it was just really, really bizarre. And I was in a basement cell, so, there was no light. You really couldn't see the sun. All I saw was a brick wall. And I couldn't see the passage of the sun. So there's really no way of knowing what time it was.
Right.
And so time, if I didn't do things to keep my mind occupied, time would stretch on, forever and ever and ever and ever. And that's why it was important to me to keep my mind active, through writing, writing lyrics, writing essays, writing letters, writing journal entries, trying to be creative, and physically active as best I could in that cell, doing push-ups and stuff like that. The mind and the body are connected, obviously. So, I just tried to keep myself occupied the best I could.
Right.
And when I did that, if I had something to think about, time didn't seem to pass so slowly. But if you sat there, like my cellmate, I was like, how is this man not, completely crazy? Because he did nothing but lay on his bed and whistle. I was like, and stare at the wall. I'm like, you must be out of your mind.
Right.
I gotta do something.
You can only sleep
I can't sit on a bed for a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. You're gonna be.
Yeah,
You're worse for the wear anyway, and then you just sit around for a month, and you're going to have bed sores and aches and creaks that really come to the forefront, aside from the normal everyday ones that you deal with to begin with.
Yes, sir.
What, Randy, before we go any further, I want to ask you if you have any website, like a centralized site where the press you'll be doing for the books is out there, or where people can go to order the book. Is there a million sites, or do you have it centralized, the one place where everybody can go for their one-stop shop?
Yeah, there is a site. It's Randy Blythe. My name is pronounced Blythe, but I'll just say how it's spelled. Randy Blythe, RandyBlythe, RandyBlythe.net. And that has in-store signings, and there's some cool merch bundles and stuff. There's one with some photography stuff, and I'll be adding to that website more and more. But yeah, man, you can go there, or you can order the book on Amazon, or you can go to your local independent bookstore and support local businesses and have them get it for you.
Awesome, that's sweet. So we're to this point, man, and we get, you finally get out after the assay that turns into, man, and 30-some days seem like forever, and you get the hell out of there. From reading the book, you could tell right off the rip that you're an honorable man and you try to be a good human being and do what's right. I'm sure that the peanut gallery was chattering and chiming in going, Randy, do not fucking go back there ever. When we go on tour, we'll just fucking skip over that entire section of Europe just to be safe.
You know, there were plenty of people that told me not to go back. My band was not one of them because they've known me for 20-something years, and they know better than to tell me anything, really.
Right.
You know, I'm kind of hard-headed. They can't say, Randy, this is the way it's going to be, you know. I'm not easily tamed. You know, they kind of dealt with it. Once I said, look, I'm going to go back for trial, and I said that before I ever even left prison, you know, they're like, okay, that's what he's going to do, you know. But then when I came back and got out to the States, of course, there were a ton of people who told me not to go back. My family, you know, they knew better than to tell me what to do because, you know, they're like, look, he's trying to be a good dude. He's trying to do the honorable thing. So they didn't try and convince me one way or the other.
Right.
I know my mom didn't want me to. She sent me an email the other day. She was like, oh, man, I was the first one that didn't want you to go back. But, you know, I'm proud of the man that you are. You did what you thought was the right thing. So it means a lot to me, you know.
Absolutely.
Trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of balls, and a lot of people say, oh, I would have went back or I wouldn't went back, and I call horseshit on that because you don't know until you're in that situation, and then you really see the true character of the person you are.
Yeah, man, you don't really know what's going to happen until the shit hits the fan. Some people who say, I wouldn't do that, no way, screw that, and at first I get kind of bummed out about that, and I'm like, well, to me it seemed the right thing to do, but then I realized, like you're saying, like, you've never been in my shoes. You don't know what you would do. Your conscience might speak to you, and, you know, that's kind of the whole point of the book to me is personal accountability. It's okay to do the right thing, even when it's really scary, and you better believe I was scared, dude.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you touched on it and brought it up many, many times that, like, above anything else, doing the right... I'm scared to death, man. Like, I'm just scared. And it's okay to be scared, man. Yeah, it is, you know. Courage is not the absence of fear. You know, if you do something and people are like, oh, that's brave, but it's nothing that you weren't afraid to do, you know, then that's not very brave. That's just you doing something, you know. And I'm not saying I'm the bravest dude in the world, but at all, because I'm not. But I tried my best to do the right thing, and I was freaking terrified, man. I don't want to go to prison for 10 years. Exactly, especially in a foreign land.
Yeah, especially in a foreign country, and, you know, it's very much in my mind, you know, even for the time I was in there, you know. I know people who have done hard time, and people die in prison, you know, shit happens, like, you know, it's scary, you know, and it's scary, but, like, the whole thing was really scary, and I'm not gonna say I wasn't scared, but I was, but you know, I did the right thing according to my conscience, according to my inner moral compass, and you know, no one can take that away from me.
Exactly, and
it's okay. It's okay to be scared. Just try and do the right thing.
Right.
Know?
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people say, well, I'm not going back, and I wouldn't go back, and I think it has to do, like, out of fear, man, and I'm sure, like, you were shitting your pants going, dude, I have to face the reality that when I go over there to stand trial and defend myself and clear my good name, that there's a very strong possibility that I'm not coming back for 10 years.
Oh, yeah. You know, when I was found not guilty, it was a real big surprise, dude. I mean, by the end of the trial, I was pretty convinced, and my legal team was pretty convinced that, you know, they aren't going to be able to make this charge stick. There's no way they're going to give me 5 to 10. But I thought for sure I thought I'd do at least a year to 3 years.
Right.
Because I thought they'd bust me down to a lesser charge, and I was like, you know, that's better than 10 years.
Right, at that point, yeah, you're like, I'd take it. So when you get cleared and you're found innocent of all charges, is like the first thing you're like, all right, we got to get out of Dodge right now before anybody changes their mind, because I've seen the the flaws in the Czech legal system, man. I don't want them getting me on a technicality. Let's get out of Dodge. Feet don't fail me now.
Yeah, man. I didn't hang around too long. I didn't hang around in Prague too long. I mean, we had some stuff to take care of, and we had an extra day on the back end because we didn't know exactly how long the court was going to last, and that we booked plane tickets, was in the hope that they would be over by this certain time. So, my lawyer and I stayed another day, and we went out sightseeing out in the country. We left Prague and went out to the country, went to this famous bone church outside Prague, a place called Kutna Hora. It's amazing, an ossuary. But then after that, I was at the airport and gone.
Ready to be home. So now that brings us to present day. You got the book coming out July 14th, correct?
Yes, sir, Tuesday.
This Tuesday, and that is leading up to the release of the new Lamb of God record, and I'm sure that a lot of people are probably thinking, all right, this is a prison record, man, and I've read, and I don't know, I haven't heard the whole album yet. I've heard the two songs, and it doesn't seem like that's the case at all. Were you kind of worried about the close proximity of each separate thing coming out and saying, it's going to get thrown into a big pot, and it's going to be like the Randy jailbreak tour?
Well, the record was originally supposed to come out later, and then the release got pushed up to not competing with some other things, and I wasn't originally that happy about that, and my management called me to ask me, and, they're like, is this cool? They hadn't called my band first, and I'm like, it kind of sucks for me, but, yeah, it's cool, because, what's good for my band is I have to keep that in mind, it's like a marriage. I gotta do everything I can to keep it afloat.
Right.
But the record is not a prison record. There's 2 songs on it that deal with it, and I wrote both of those while I was still locked up. So the rest of the stuff has nothing to do with the whole ordeal, And I know people are expecting that, and I've spent the last month doing press telling journalist after journalist, no, this is not a prison record. No,
exactly.
No.
But it's not going to be like, I hear the train a-rolling, and it's not going to be live at the Folsom County Prison and none of that shit.
No. No, I tell them, I'm like, look, dude, I wrote a 500-page book about the whole thing. Why would I write a record about it?
Exactly. Read the book, and that's another thing, Randy, that I wanted to give you props on. Most people in your position would be like, you know what, I got to find a good guy that can take dictation and notes and all this stuff and convey my thoughts the way that I would want them to come out. But you're like, fuck that. You wrote the thing yourself, man, and there's no pictures in the book at all, man. It's a straight 500-some pages of what was going on and what was in your head.
Yeah, man. I've always wanted to write a book, and I've loved books. I've read them since I was a little kid. I know what good writing is. I know how to pace things. And for me, the experience was such a singular experience. It was so weird being locked up in a foreign prison for that there's no way that I could get somebody who hasn't lived it to describe it and do it what I would consider justice.
Right.
Like we were talking about, I want the reader to be there with me because I want them to understand. I want them to understand, this is screwed up. I was scared. I want them to feel it. I don't think, a co-writer who has never been through something like that, and I don't know any co-writers who have, in the rock business. I don't think a co-writer could communicate that in the way that I would want them to. And plus, I think I'm a decent enough writer to do it myself, so, it's my book. I have no. That's another thing, man. It's my book. If it flops, it's on me.
It's on you. That's right. And then you could say, "Hey, what do you want? I'm a glorified T-shirt salesman, man. Back the fuck up a little bit."
Yeah, there you go.
Right? I thought that line was humorous, and I laughed my ass off, and I said, you know what? That's like people that go like, oh man, you guys got it so easy. You get on the plane, you go to where you're going, then you get on a bus, and this and that, and it's like, dude, really, the record industry is not what it was, man. And the only way any of these guys make anything is selling merch at the shows, man, out on the road, breaking up the concrete. And you said it best. I'm a glorified T-shirt salesman.
It's the truth. It's the truth. You know, that's how bands make their money these days. You know, and I'm not in Led Zeppelin. I'm not a millionaire, but I have a comfortable life. I love my job. I guess I suppose I could hear and bemoan the state of the music industry and how it's falling to pieces and all that stuff. That's not doing me any good.
Right, and that's another book for another time, right?
Yes, sir.
There you go. So, Randy, I know you've taken a little bit out of your day, and I really appreciate it to talk to me. So, once again, let everybody know your website, and hey, you do have a new record coming out in the midst of all this chaos, too. So, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find out all the happenings of Lamb of God, too, if you'd like.
All right. For Lamb of God, the band, it's lamb-of-god.com. You can figure out anything you want to know about our ridiculous, hairy dog and pony show. Will be coming to your town sooner or later. Go there, and then for my website, it's randyblythe.net. Check it out, you know.
There you go. Well, Randy, like I said, I really do appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us, man. And best of luck to you with the book and the album, and stay safe out on the road. And hopefully when you get to Cleveland sometime in your travels, we can sit down and do this face-to-face, man, and have a cappuccino.
Yes, sir. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.